The world of retail, once a straightforward exchange of goods for money, is now facing a formidable challenge. This challenge is not a new competitor or a sudden shift in consumer taste. It is something far more insidious. It is the persistent, growing problem of retail theft. This issue has quietly escalated, moving from occasional opportunistic shoplifting to a widespread crisis. It impacts businesses, employees, and communities on both sides of the Atlantic. The numbers are startling. The stories are concerning. We are witnessing a fundamental shift in the retail landscape, driven by a crime that many once dismissed as minor. Understanding this shift is crucial. The scale of this problem is no longer a matter of small change or incidental losses. We are talking about billions of dollars vanishing from retailers' accounts each year. In the United States and the United Kingdom, the figures paint a grim picture. Daily incidents run into the tens of thousands. This is not just about teenagers pocketing candy bars. It involves organized groups and persistent individuals who systematically target stores. The cumulative effect of these actions is immense. It forces businesses to rethink their strategies, their security, and sometimes their very existence in certain locations. This is a storm that has been gathering strength for years. This crisis is not merely an economic one, though the financial losses are indeed staggering. It touches upon deep societal issues. It involves the effectiveness of legal systems and the consequences of legislative changes. It prompts questions about social responsibility and the moral fabric of our communities. When theft becomes rampant, it erodes trust. It creates an environment of fear and insecurity for retail workers. It can lead to store closures, depriving neighborhoods of essential services. The ripple effects extend far beyond the cash register. This is a complex web of interconnected problems. This essay aims to unravel this complexity. We will look at the hard data from both the US and the UK. We will explore the real-world consequences through case studies like Rite Aid. We will examine the significant roles played by repeat offenders and organized crime syndicates. Furthermore, we will consider how legal frameworks might be contributing to the problem. Finally, we will step back and reflect on the underlying moral dimensions. The ancient commandment, "Thou shalt not steal," seems more relevant than ever as we navigate this modern crisis. The story of retail theft in 2025 is a story about more than just stolen goods. In the United States, the financial impact of retail crime is nothing short of breathtaking. Retailers are not just losing products, they are hemorrhaging money at an alarming rate. According to the National Retail Federation, U.S. retailers experienced an astounding $112.1 billion in losses in 2022 due to various forms of retail crime, including theft, fraud, and organized retail crime. This figure represents a significant drain on the economy. It affects profitability, investment in growth, and ultimately, consumer prices. This is not a victimless crime. The cost is borne by everyone in the economic chain. The trend lines for shoplifting incidents and their associated dollar losses are sharply inclined upwards. The NRF's The Impact of Retail Theft and Violence 2024 report revealed a shocking 93% increase in the average number of shoplifting incidents per year in 2023 when compared to pre-pandemic levels in 2019. Even more concerning, the dollar loss from shoplifting surged by 90% during the same period. This indicates that not only are thefts more frequent, but the value of goods stolen per incident is also increasing. Mid-year reporting for 2024 suggests this disturbing trend is continuing, with shoplifting rates already higher than the same period in 2023. Certain categories of goods are particularly attractive to thieves. The NRF report highlighted that apparel, accessories, and footwear were prime targets, constituting 41.7% of the goods pilfered. These items are often easy to conceal and have a high resale value on illicit markets. The sophistication of some theft operations means that popular brand-name items are systematically targeted and funneled into the shadow economy. This selective targeting further complicates prevention efforts for retailers. who must protect their most desirable and often most profitable merchandise. The fight against theft is a constant battle of wits and resources. Several societal and economic factors appear to be fanning the flames of this crisis. Commentators like Simon Randall, CEO of Pimlock, have pointed to a confluence of issues. These include the rising cost of living, which may drive some to desperation. The pervasiveness of opioid usage is another factor, as addiction can fuel theft to support habits. Perhaps most controversially, the decriminalization of lower-value thefts in some jurisdictions is seen by many as reducing the perceived risk and consequences for offenders. This complex interplay of factors creates a challenging environment for retailers trying to protect their assets and ensure a safe shopping environment. The retail theft crisis is not confined to American shores. It is a global phenomenon with a strong parallel in the United Kingdom. British retailers are grappling with remarkably similar challenges, witnessing record losses and a surge in criminal activity. Data from the British Retail Consortium paints a stark picture. In the 2023-24 financial year, losses attributed to customer theft soared to a record £2.2 billion. This figure, equivalent to approximately $2.8 billion, marked a significant increase from the £1.8 billion reported in the preceding year. This escalation underscores the growing severity of the problem. The sheer volume of theft incidents in the UK is equally alarming. The BRC data indicates that there were over 20 million individual incidents of customer theft during 2023-24. This breaks down to an average of more than 55,000 thefts occurring every single day across the nation. Such frequency transforms retail environments into constant battlegrounds against loss. It places immense pressure on staff, who are often on the front lines of confronting thieves. The pervasiveness of these incidents changes the very nature of the shopping experience for everyone involved, creating an atmosphere of tension and suspicion. In response to this onslaught, UK retailers have significantly increased their investment in crime prevention measures. In the 2023-24 period, they spent a hefty £1.8 billion on security, up from £1.2 billion the previous year. This expenditure covers a wide range of initiatives, from hiring more security personnel and installing advanced CCTV systems to implementing new anti-theft technologies. However, despite this substantial financial commitment to bolstering defenses, the losses from theft have continued their upward trajectory. This frustrating reality suggests that current prevention strategies alone may not be enough to stem the tide. The situation in the UK mirrors the US crisis in many ways, highlighting common underlying currents. Retailers in both countries face similar challenges related to organized crime, repeat offenders, and the impact of economic pressures on society. The struggle to balance customer service with robust security and the debate over appropriate legal responses to theft are shared concerns. This parallel experience suggests that solutions may also require a degree of international collaboration and learning from best practices. The fight against retail crime is a complex, multifaceted challenge that demands a comprehensive and adaptive approach wherever it occurs. The abstract numbers and statistics on retail theft gain a stark human dimension when we examine their impact on specific businesses. The case of Rite Aid, a well-known pharmacy chain in the United States, serves as a cautionary tale. It illustrates how the relentless pressure of theft can contribute to pushing a major company to the brink. Rite Aid's recent bankruptcy filings and subsequent mass store closures were not solely due to one factor, but company executives explicitly and repeatedly pointed to retail theft as a significant financial headwind that proved too strong to overcome in many locations. Executives at Rite Aid were candid about the role of front-end shrink industry jargon for the theft of non-prescription merchandise in their financial woes. This type of theft, involving everyday items from cosmetics to household goods, might seem minor on an individual basis. However, when compounded across hundreds of stores and thousands of incidents, the losses become crippling. For Rite Aid, these losses directly eroded profitability. They made it increasingly difficult to operate stores viably, especially in areas where theft was particularly rampant. The steady drain of merchandise was a constant battle. The scale of the problem for Rite Aid in certain urban areas was truly staggering. Reports indicated that some of its stores in New York City, for example, were losing approximately $5 million to theft in a single quarter. Such colossal losses are unsustainable for any business. Executives described situations where the sheer volume of stealing made it, in their words, an impossibility of stopping stealing. When theft reaches such epidemic proportions, the cost of security measures, coupled with the direct loss of goods, can easily outweigh any potential revenue a store might generate, forcing an inevitable and difficult decision to close. Rite Aid's experience is more than just a corporate misfortune. It is a clear signal of a wider vulnerability within the retail sector. It demonstrates that unchecked retail crime is not just a nuisance, but a genuine existential threat to businesses, both large and small. The closure of Rite Aid stores has meant job losses. It has meant reduced access to pharmacy services and essential goods for communities, sometimes creating retail deserts. The story of Rite Aid is a vivid illustration of how the data on theft translates into tangible, negative consequences for the economy and for society. It is a warning that cannot be ignored. Section 5. The few who take much unmasking repeat offenders. A critical insight into the retail theft crisis is the disproportionate impact of a relatively small group of individuals. It's not the case that millions of different people are occasionally shoplifting small items. Instead, a significant portion of the losses can be attributed to a core group of persistent, repeat offenders. These individuals often operate with a degree of professionalism and audacity that sets them apart from casual shoplifters. Understanding this dynamic is key to developing more effective strategies to combat the problem. These individuals are often known to law enforcement and retailers alike. Data from various sources consistently highlights this pattern. In New York City, for instance, an analysis by the Manhattan Institute citing NYPD data found that a mere 327 individuals were responsible for an astonishing 6,600 shoplifting arrests in 2022. This small cohort accounted for approximately 1/3 of all shoplifting arrests in the city for that entire year. This concentration of offending behavior suggests that targeting enforcement and intervention efforts towards these high-volume offenders could yield significant reductions in overall theft rates. They represent a critical leverage point in the system. This phenomenon is not unique to New York. Globally, intelligence platforms like Auror, which specializes in retail crime, report similar findings. According to Auror's 2024 data from the U.S., the top 10% of known offenders are responsible for an overwhelming 68% of the total reported event value. This stark statistic underscores the fact that a small fraction of thieves inflict the vast majority of the financial damage. These are not individuals stealing out of momentary desperation. Many are involved in systematic theft as a continuous activity, often as part of larger criminal enterprises. The challenge posed by these repeat offenders is compounded by various factors. In some jurisdictions, even with multiple arrests, the consequences for nonviolent theft may be minimal, leading to a quick return to their activities. This creates a frustrating revolving door scenario for law enforcement and retailers. The efficiency and brazenness of these prolific offenders mean they can target multiple stores in a single day, accumulating substantial quantities of stolen goods. Addressing this core group effectively requires a multi-pronged approach, including robust prosecution, better information sharing between retailers and police, and exploring interventions that can break the cycle of reoffending. Section 6. The Hidden Networks, Organized Retail Crime's Deep Reach. Beyond the actions of individual repeat offenders lies an even more complex and damaging phenomenon, organized retail crime, or ORC. This is not opportunistic shoplifting. Orc involves sophisticated criminal enterprises that orchestrate large-scale theft operations for substantial profit. These groups treat retail theft as a business, complete with hierarchies, logistics, and distribution networks for stolen goods. Their activities represent a significant escalation in the threat level faced by retailers, moving far beyond simple loss prevention into the realm of combating organized criminal syndicates. These networks are often extensive and difficult to penetrate. Orc groups employ various methods to achieve their goals. They often recruit and manage teams of boosters, the individuals who physically steal items from stores. These boosters are typically directed to target specific high-value merchandise such as designer clothing, electronics, pharmaceuticals, or baby formula. The stolen goods are then aggregated and funneled into illicit supply chains. Many of these items end up being resold through online marketplaces, flea markets, or even sometimes back into legitimate-appearing retail channels through complicit businesses. The scale of these operations can be vast, with goods sometimes moved across state or even international borders. Certain geographic areas have become known hotspots for orc activity. According to a 2024 NRF report, 3 California cities, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Oakland, and Sacramento, were among the top 10 areas in the U.S. most affected by organized retail crime. These urban centers often provide both a target-rich environment for theft and the infrastructure for illicitly selling stolen goods. The concentration of ORC in specific regions poses a severe challenge to local law enforcement and retailers, requiring coordinated efforts to disrupt these entrenched criminal networks. The problem often transcends local police jurisdictions. A deeply concerning aspect of the rise in ORC is the associated increase in violence and aggression. The NRF reported that in 2023, 73% of U.S. retailers observed an increase in the aggressiveness of shoplifters, many of whom are linked to ORC operations. These encounters can lead to physical assaults on retail employees and customers, creating a climate of fear. Research by Verkada's Loss Prevention Research Council in 2024 highlighted that this rising violence against retail workers is a significant factor driving them out of the industry. The human cost of ORC thus extends far beyond financial losses, impacting the safety and well-being of individuals. Section 7. Lenient laws, a green light for criminals. A significant part of the conversation around the escalating retail theft crisis centers on the role of legal frameworks and recent changes to them. Many retailers and law enforcement officials argue that certain legislative shifts, particularly in the United States, have inadvertently created an environment where theft is perceived as a low-risk, low-consequence activity. One of the most frequently cited changes is the increase in felony theft thresholds. In many states, the monetary value of stolen goods required for a theft to be classified as a felony rather than a misdemeanor has been raised, often to $950 or $1,000. California's Proposition 47, passed in 2014, is a prominent example of such legislative change. This proposition reclassified several nonviolent felonies, including grand theft of property valued under $950, to misdemeanors. The intent was to reduce prison populations and focus resources on more serious crimes. However, critics argue it has had unintended consequences for retail theft. Since its implementation, reported shoplifting in California has increased by over 17%, according to a Manhattan Institute report. The year 2023 saw the highest level of reported shoplifting in the state since 1998. The Hoover Institute noted this often means law enforcement may not investigate and prosecutors may not pursue these lesser charges vigorously. A similar debate surrounds bail reform measures enacted in states like New York. The 2020 New York bail reform largely eliminated cash bail for most misdemeanor and nonviolent felony charges, including many retail theft offenses. The aim was to create a fairer pre-trial system, not dependent on an individual's ability to pay. However, opponents contend that this has led to a revolving door system for repeat offenders. They argue that individuals arrested for retail theft are often released quickly without bail, only to re-offend shortly thereafter. Data from the Council on Criminal Justice showed a 64% increase in reported shoplifting incidents in New York City from mid-2019 to mid-2023. New Jersey also implemented comprehensive bail reform in 2017, largely eliminating monetary bail. While initially praised for reducing pre-trial detention rates, the state later experienced rising concerns about ORC and repeat retail theft. This led to a legislative response. A new law, set to take effect in 2025, aims to counteract these trends by imposing extended prison terms for certain repeat retail theft offenders and mandating the Attorney General to develop strategies to combat the problem. These examples highlight the delicate balance states are trying to strike between criminal justice reform and addressing the tangible impacts of rising property crime. Section 8. Beyond the bottom line: community scars and policy shifts. The consequences of unchecked retail theft extend far beyond the financial statements of affected businesses. They carve deep scars into the fabric of communities. When stores are forced to close due to unsustainable losses from theft, it is not just a building that becomes vacant. It means the loss of local jobs, depriving individuals and families of their livelihoods. It often leads to the creation of retail deserts, particularly in already vulnerable or underserved neighborhoods. These are areas where residents lose convenient access to essential goods like groceries, medications, and other daily necessities. This diminishes the quality of life for many. Consumers ultimately bear a significant portion of the burden. Retailers facing high theft rates may be forced to pass on the costs through increased prices for goods and services. This effectively means that honest customers end up subsidizing the losses caused by thieves. Furthermore, the shopping experience itself can deteriorate. Stores may resort to locking up more items, reducing product accessibility, or increasing visible security measures that can make environments feel less welcoming. The erosion of safety is also a major concern, as increased aggression from shoplifters can make both employees and customers feel insecure. In response to this growing crisis, there is a noticeable shift in policy discussions and legislative action. California, after years of debate following Proposition 47, saw Governor Newsom sign a package of 10 new public safety laws in August 2024. These laws are specifically aimed at cracking down on retail crime and property theft. They include measures for stricter penalties, enhanced enforcement capabilities, and new tools for prosecutors, such as the ability to aggregate the value of stolen goods across multiple incidents. This signals a recognition that previous approaches may have been insufficient. Nationally, efforts are underway to provide a more unified response. According to the NRF, 28 states have now established criminal laws specifically targeting organized retail crime or have enhanced penalties for repeat retail theft offenders. Furthermore, 48 U.S. states operate an Organized Retail Crime Association, or ORCA. These associations facilitate information sharing between retailers and law enforcement agencies to help investigate and prosecute ORC groups more effectively. The NRF continues to advocate for federal legislation to bring more national resources to bear against these sophisticated criminal enterprises, a move supported by 94% of retailers. The challenge is to find solutions that are both effective against crime and fair to all. Section 9. The moral compass: thou shalt not steal in a modern mess. At the heart of the retail theft crisis, beyond the data, the laws, and the economic impacts, lies a fundamental moral question. The eighth commandment, thou shalt not steal, Exodus 20:15, is not merely an ancient religious edict. It is a foundational principle for societal order and trust. This simple prohibition underpins the concept of private property, the value of honest labor, and the mutual respect necessary for communities to function and thrive. When this principle is widely disregarded, the consequences, as we are seeing, can be profoundly damaging to the social and economic fabric. This moral stance against theft is not isolated to a single verse. Biblical texts consistently condemn stealing as a transgression with broad implications. Leviticus 19:11 states plainly, "Do not steal, do not lie, do not deceive one another." This links theft with dishonesty and deceit, highlighting its corrosive effect on interpersonal relationships and societal integrity. Ephesians 4:28 offers a constructive alternative. Anyone who has been stealing must steal no longer, but must work, doing something useful with their own hands, that they may have something to share with those in need. This contrasts theft with productive labor and generosity. Even when acknowledging potential desperation, the moral framework emphasizes accountability. Proverbs 6:30-31, for example, notes that while people may not despise a thief who steals to satisfy hunger, if caught, that thief must pay sevenfold, even if it costs all the wealth of his house. This underscores the inherent penalty and the need for restitution associated with theft, regardless of the perceived motive. The act of taking what rightfully belongs to another carries an intrinsic wrongness that demands to be addressed for justice in order to prevail in any society. The current crisis, exemplified by the struggles of businesses like Rite Aid and the pervasive fear in retail environments, illustrates the tangible consequences of eroding this moral imperative. When theft becomes normalized or is perceived as having minimal consequences, it creates a cascade of negative outcomes. It leads to economic instability, job losses, community decay, and a decline in public safety. As we grapple with the complex data and seek effective legislative solutions, it is perhaps equally important to revisit and reaffirm the simple yet profound ethical understanding that stealing is wrong. This moral compass, often overlooked in policy debates, remains crucial for navigating our way out of this modern mess.